So Ohio DOT is a customer, and we've really enjoyed listening to their use cases and learning from some of the things that they've seen with projects that get more attention. We'll just frame it that way than others. Route 23 is a highway from Delaware down and goes north and south, and there is a current initiative that has received plenty of attention. And so the Ohio Department of Transportation, using public input, has been able to corral that into something that not only are they able to say, here, we have context behind the 6,000 people who have been a part of this process and understanding who they are and then what they've said. We're actually able to build momentum because we're taking all of that attention, all of the people who are a part of this, they're coming to meetings, they're emailing us, they're sending online comments, they're just visiting the website. All of that information is getting stored in a central system of record so that for the other projects or for a grant application, we have this information. If you look at this map here, this is an example of what we call equity mapping, and it is simply the ability to look at where participation comes from related to a specific project. So you're looking at the project dashboard for this Route 23 Connect, and within it, you can see a few things. One, where all that participation, you can see these clusters came from. It's interesting to note that at the north side of the screenshot there, you'll see Delaware. That is a well-known wealthy area that is, I think, if I remember correctly, the only county in Ohio where the median household income is over 100,000. So we expect to get a lot of feedback from these places, and that's great. We want them to be involved. But then we also want to make sure that we're seeing that distribution, the other people who are going to be impacted by this project. Are we hearing from them? Are we engaging them? And then if you look further down, another thing as far as consolidating all these tools into a place so that you have that context is actually the referral traffic. This is a neat thing that public input does, is allow you to see where people are coming from. And if you look at the top referral site, it is nohighway.com. I'll give you one guess as to what the purpose of that website is intended for. Obviously, it got some attention and it drove traffic. That is not to say that we're going to filter out any of these responses, but it is to say, all right, we know more about who is participating. We know more about what we can do to make sure that we're reaching the groups that are going to be impacted by more mobility along this corridor. And again, while we're doing that, we're building that database so that when we look at things later on, we've got all that information in the system. And if you skip to the next slide, we can take it and use it for other things. I'm going to wrap this up and then we'll move on to some Q&A by saying that the USD, I'll go back to that USDOT Meaningful Public Involvement Guidebook. One of the direct quotes from it says, the result is transportation decisions informed by community input that maximize benefits, and this is important, mitigate the risk of harm to communities. So we want to be able to say, all right, we've heard from both sides of the argument. And this screenshot here is Ohio DOT's CRM within public input, filtered for Justice 40 communities. So as Liz mentioned, the purpose of Justice 40 is to say 40% of the benefits of their funding have to go to these communities. There are two things here that stand out to me as hard. One is being able to measure improvement in those communities. What does better look like? And there's two types of data there. One is hard data that Streetlight can provide, the ability to say, all right, we saw traffic patterns and now we don't. But then there's the soft data, that subjective stuff where public feedback is really critical. We say, all right, if we create benchmarks of sentiment, we create benchmarks of people being honest about the current situation and what they would like or what they need, then you put that into a system of record as well. And you can filter for it in places like Public Input's CRM and look at just the people who live in those communities and what they have said. And then, of course, you can run a report on the particular project and say, all right, for the Route 23 one, let's see what, we know what these places said. Let's see what this community said. And provide that context to show the federal government, we understand this community. We have used the tools that they prefer. We have reported and documented on exactly the types of impacts that they are going to experience. Because we have that data available, we have that data in the same place that anybody in the organization can access. So at the end of the day, what we really get excited about is that opportunity to implement something that's predictable, something that's replicable, and that really there are several companies, ourselves of course included, out here that are focused on, because we know that there's so much change and we know that there's so much uncertainty around what the next funding opportunity is going to look like, or will there be one, right? This avalanche of funding right now, let's make the most of it, because who knows when it'll happen again. Take advantage of this opportunity, take advantage of the enormous amount of work coming up, and build those systems with the funding you've got.